The St. Tammany coroner just released autopsy results on a New Orleans police officer who suffered a gunshot wound to the head 2.5 years ago and died over the weekend.
As Rob Masson reports, the St. Tammany coroner has ruled the death a homicide, saying Abney died from complications from that wound, and charges could be elevated against the suspect, who is now in jail.
And you are doing so at a time that is very challenging in our country.
Mayor LaToya Cantrell speaks to 20 new recruits at the police academy, pausing to recognize the life of an officer who passed away over the weekend, 2.5 years after being shot in the line of duty.
My heart is a little heavy this morning because I'm thinking about one of our officers that went on.
In October of 2020, Officer Trevor Abney was shot in the head as he sat in his police vehicle at the corner of Royal and St. Philip. Shortly after the shooting, police arrested 44-year-old Donnell Hassel, who they say shot Officer Abney from the back of a pedicab in which Hassel was a passenger.
It kind of sums it up pretty closely to what police officers can expect, and that's the unexpected.
Police Association attorney Eric Hessler knew Abney, who his brother coached while in high school.
Officer Abney and his partner were simply stopped at an intersection, letting a pedicab traverse the intersection, and it's an ambush.
The bullet struck Abney just below the eye, while shattered glass injured fellow officer Brooke Duncan.
My condolences right now, of course, remain with the family. I had the opportunity to speak to his wife last night. We have had actually a relationship and has grown closer since the incident in the French Quarter.
Although we may not ever know what led the shooter to open fire on Officer Abney at this intersection 2.5 years ago, we do know that the incidents of fatal police shootings are up dramatically over the last 10 years.
This is one of the most dangerous professions.
LSU health criminologist Dr. Peter Sharp says he was an acquaintance of Officer Abney, whose death comes at a time when fatal police shootings have risen 20% over the last 10 years.
Who wants the chance, you've got children, family, to be shot, and be in a critical life situation and then die?
Suspect Donnell Hassel, a visitor from Georgia, remains locked up awaiting trial after being arrested 6 blocks away from where the shooting occurred shortly after the shots were fired. And Hassel faced 2 counts of attempted murder of a police officer, but again, those charges could be upgraded now that the coroner ruled Abney's death a homicide. The Orleans DA just issued a statement saying they are talking with Abney's family to determine their next move. Now, Senior Officer Abney received a commendation for exemplary performance from the NOPD after saving the life of a citizen. He served in the 5th, 6th, and 8th districts. The NOPD says his presence will be greatly missed by all of his fellow officers.